Have you ever had your life completely changed by your own children? Hit that like button if you've been surprised by your kids, and subscribe to hear more incredible life-changing stories like this one. The restaurant hostess approached with a sympathetic smile that made my stomach drop. I'm sorry, sir. It seems your date called to cancel. She said something came up. Her eyes darted to the 3 empty chairs at my table, then to the single rose I'd purchased from the street vendor outside. I nodded, trying to maintain my dignity while the weight of being stood up settled on my shoulders. What the hostess didn't know, what nobody in this upscale restaurant knew, was that I hadn't actually arranged this date. My 12-year-old triplets had. I should have known something was off when Lily, Emma, and Jack had been suspiciously well-behaved all week. When they insisted on picking out my outfit and practically pushed me out the door tonight, I'd been touched by their enthusiasm. "Dad, you deserve this," they'd chorused. Now I understood their giggles and whispered conversations. There was no date. There never had been. As I signaled for the check, prepared to end this humiliating evening, a woman rushed through the entrance, her dark hair slightly windblown, cheeks flushed from the cool evening air. She scanned the restaurant with frantic eyes until they landed on me, the pathetic man sitting alone with a wilting rose. To my surprise, she hurried over. "Are you Michael Parker?" she asked, slightly out of breath. I nodded, confused. "I'm Olivia Chen. I'm so sorry I'm late. 3 very persistent children called me claiming their father needed a date tonight." She smiled uncertainly. "I'm their art teacher. And that's how my triplets prank turned into the beginning of something I never expected to find again after losing their mother. I'd been raising the triplets alone since my wife Sarah died from complications during their birth. 12 years of solo parenting had taught me everything from braiding hair to coaching soccer to mediating sibling rivalries that erupted with volcanic intensity. What it hadn't taught me was how to stop feeling like half a person. The triplets were my world, exhausting, demanding, brilliant, and the greatest joy of my life. But they were growing up, developing their own interests and personalities. Lily, our budding scientist, collected rocks and conducted experiments that occasionally violated household safety codes. Emma lived in books and wrote stories that surprised me with their emotional depth. And Jack, our family comedian, used humor to navigate the world, though I sometimes caught glimpses of sadness behind his jokes. They were thriving, but they were also observant. Too observant. "Dad, when was the last time you went out with friends?" Emma had asked one night as I checked her homework. "I have friends," I'd protested. "Uncle Rob and the other dads from soccer don't count," Jack had chimed in. "She means like, actual fun." "I have fun with you 3 monsters," I'd said, tickling him until he squealed. But the seed had been planted. I'd catch them watching me when they thought I wasn't looking, whispering among themselves. I should have recognized the warning signs. Olivia slid into the chair across from me, setting down her bag. "I almost didn't come," she admitted. "I thought it might be some kind of prank." "It was," I said, feeling my face heat with embarrassment. "Just not the kind you're thinking. My kids set this up without telling me. I thought I was meeting someone they'd met through their friend's mom." Her eyebrows rose. "And I thought I was doing a favor for a student whose dad was too shy to ask me out himself." She laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "Your children are creative." "That's one word for it," I muttered. "I'm so sorry they dragged you into this. You don't have to stay." Olivia studied me for a moment, then reached for the menu. "Actually, I'm starving. And curious. Tell me about these matchmaking triplets of yours." Over appetizers, I told her about the kids. How Lily had once tried to improve our washing machine and flooded the laundry room. How Emma had written a play and convinced the entire 5th grade to perform it. How Jack had been sent to the principal's office for doing a startlingly accurate impression of his math teacher. "They sound amazing," Olivia said, her eyes bright with interest. And exhausting. Both, I agreed. Definitely both. She told me about teaching art at their middle school, about growing up in a family of academics who didn't understand her passion for painting, about her small apartment filled with canvases and her rescue cat named Picasso. The triplets never mentioned you were their art teacher, I said. Well, I just started this semester. And they're in different class periods. She smiled mischievously. Though now I understand why all three suddenly developed an intense interest in my personal life last week. By dessert, I'd forgotten the awkwardness of how we'd met. Conversation flowed easily, punctuated by laughter. When she mentioned loving old black and white films, I felt a jolt of connection. Sarah and I had spent our dating years working through Hitchcock's filmography. I should probably get home to the kids, I said reluctantly as we finished our coffee. Their grandmother is watching them, but she has a strict bedtime policy. For herself, not them. Olivia nodded. Of course. She hesitated. This was unexpected. But nice. Very nice, I agreed. Though I should probably ground them until college for this stunt. Or thank them, she suggested with a smile. When I arrived home, Mom was asleep on the couch with a mystery novel on her chest, but 3 pairs of eyes peered down at me from the top of the stairs. How was your date, Dad? Emma called in a stage whisper. Get down here, you 3, I said, trying to sound stern despite the smile tugging at my lips. They trooped down in their pajamas, attempting to look innocent and failing spectacularly. So? Jack prompted. Did you like Ms. Chen? How do you know I met Ms. Chen? I asked, crossing my arms. We might have called her, Lily admitted. We told her you were too nervous to ask her out yourself. You did what? I exclaimed, genuinely horrified now. Dad, we've seen how you look at her during parent-teacher conferences, Emma said matter-of-factly. You get all weird and formal. And you always fix your hair before we go to her classroom, Jack added. Plus, she's pretty and nice and laughs at your terrible jokes, Lily concluded. We took a vote. She was the best candidate. I sank onto the bottom stair, caught between embarrassment and amazement. You 3 had no right to interfere in my personal life like that. Their faces fell in unison. We just wanted you to be happy, Dad, Emma said quietly. I am happy, I insisted. No, you're not, Jack said with unexpected seriousness. Not completely. Lily sat beside me. Mom would want you to find someone, Dad. We've talked about it. My throat tightened. You've talked about your mom? Emma nodded. We know she loved you a lot. And that you loved her. We have her pictures, Jack added. And all your stories. But it's been 12 years, Dad, Lily said gently. That's our whole lives. I pulled them into a group hug, overwhelmed by their perception and their love. These children who had never met their mother somehow understood her heart, and mine, better than I did. You're still in big trouble, I murmured into their hair. But thank you. The next morning, I found myself lingering at school drop-off, scanning the hallways for a glimpse of Olivia. When I spotted her directing students toward the art room, I gathered my courage and approached. Mr. Parker, she said with a smile. What a surprise. I wanted to apologize again for last night, I said. And to ask if you might like to go out again sometime. Properly invited by me this time. Her smile widened. I'd like that. As I walked back to my car, my phone buzzed with a text from Jack. Did you ask her out yet? These kids were going to be the death of me. Dating as a single father of triplets proved challenging in ways I hadn't anticipated. Our first official date was interrupted by 7 texts and 3 phone calls about a spider emergency that turned out to be a dust bunny. Our second ended early when Emma developed a mysterious stomach ache that miraculously cured itself the moment I arrived home. They're testing you, Mom said when I called her in frustration. Making sure you'll still come running when they need you. Of course I will, I said. They're my kids. They know that intellectually, she replied. But their hearts need convincing. So I adjusted. Olivia and I had lunch dates while the kids were at school. She came over for dinner and game nights. We took things slowly, giving the triplets time to adjust to her presence in our lives. There were bumps along the way. Emma, our most sensitive child, withdrew when Olivia and I grew closer. One night, I found her crying in her room, clutching a photo of Sarah. "I'm scared I'll forget her if you start loving someone else," she whispered. I sat beside her, heartbreaking. "Your mom is part of you, Em. Part of all of us. Nothing and no one will ever change that. Promise?" "I promise. And you know what? I think your mom would really like Olivia." Emma considered this. "Because she makes you smile more?" "That's one reason," I agreed. "She helps me with my stories," Emma admitted. "She doesn't just say they're good. She asks questions that make them better." It was a start. 6 months after our first date, Olivia and I were washing dishes side by side when she suddenly asked, "Do you ever feel guilty about being happy again?" I set down the plate I was drying. "Sometimes," I admitted. "But less than I used to. The kids talk about Sarah sometimes. In class, when they're working." She handed me another dish. "They love her very much." "They never knew her," I said softly. "That's one of my greatest regrets." "But they know her through you," Olivia said. "The way you've kept her memory alive for them is beautiful, Michael." I looked at this woman who had so unexpectedly become essential to my happiness. "I never thought I'd find this again," I confessed. After Sarah died, I was just focused on keeping the kids alive, then helping them thrive. I didn't think there was room for anything else. "And now?" she asked, her eyes searching mine. "Now I think maybe there's room for more than I realized." On the 1-year anniversary of our first date, I enlisted the triplets' help for a special dinner at home. They were 13 now, teetering on the edge of adolescence but still willing to be my accomplices. "Is tonight the night?" Jack asked as we chopped vegetables. "Maybe," I hedged. "Dad, we've seen the ring," Lily said, rolling her eyes. "You're not exactly a master of deception." "You found it?" I groaned. "Your sock drawer?" "Really, Dad?" Emma shook her head in disappointment. "Amateur hour." When Olivia arrived, the kids greeted her with suspicious formality before announcing they were going to watch a movie in the basement, a transparent excuse to give us privacy. Over dinner, I found myself growing nervous. What if this was too soon? What if the kids weren't as ready as they seemed? What if Olivia wasn't ready to take on an instant family of 4? "You're a million miles away," Olivia said, touching my hand. "Everything okay?" I looked at her, really looked at her. At the woman who had patiently navigated the chaos of our family, who had given the triplets space to accept her at their own pace, who had understood from the beginning that we were a package deal. "I had a whole speech planned," I said, reaching into my pocket. "But I think I'll just ask, Olivia Chen, will you marry me?" Her eyes widened as I opened the ring box. "Are you sure? All of you?" "Ask them yourself," I said with a smile. On cue, 3 heads popped up from behind the kitchen counter where they'd obviously been hiding. "Say yes," they chorused. Olivia laughed through tears. "Yes. Of course, yes." As the kids rushed in to surround us with hugs, I felt a sense of completeness I hadn't experienced in 13 years. Our family wasn't replacing what was lost, it was growing into something new, with room for both grief and joy, memory and hope. Our wedding was small and perfect. The triplets stood beside us as we exchanged vows, Lily holding the rings, Emma reading a poem she'd written, Jack managing to make everyone laugh even during the most solemn moments. That night, after the celebration, I found myself alone for a moment on the porch of the small inn where we were staying. The stars were bright overhead, and I thought about how far we'd come from that first prank date. "Thank you," I whispered to the night sky, to Sarah, to whatever twist of fate had brought Olivia into our lives. "Thank you for this second chance." Inside, my new wife was helping 3 overtired, cake-fueled teenagers settle into their rooms. My family, expanded, complicated, and more beautiful than I could have imagined. All because 3 12-year-olds decided to play matchmaker. Asterisk if this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about love, family, and second chances. Remember, sometimes the most unexpected beginnings lead to the most beautiful journeys. Share in the comments if your children have ever surprised you with their wisdom, asterisk.